start of the opening round of the Medallia Superbike Championship. It is time for the brief opening ceremonies. We have a treat for you today as Mark and Steve Miracle from Raceline Ministry will be performing the national anthem. But before that happens, Mark is going to take us through something very special.
It's always heartbreaking when we lose something very special, someone very special in our racing community. Last year we lost a great man by the name of Dave Sadowski. He was a Daytona 200 winner. He was a Formula USA champion. He has many, many track records all over the country, and he is a motorcycle racing legend. He loves his children. He loves his racing family, and he is a man that we are going to miss. If we could, for just a moment, have a moment of silence before our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Beautiful. It's time to go racing with Superbikes at Road Atlanta.
The two-time fight off the past championships and make it a hat trick? Or will the hungry Cam Peterson, Richie Escalante, and Matthew Sculpt put an end to the reign? The first race of 2023 dumps the clutch right now. In for the Motoamerica MAFIM North American Road Race Championship, our first round of 9 for 2023. It's Motoamerica Superbikes at Road Atlanta as we set the stage for race 1 of the Medallia Superbike class from Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, right here in Brazelton, Georgia. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, as you saw in the tease of the show, the offseason was crazy, and we have some unbelievable riders that are back in this paddock going for this championship.
I just think it's so cool to see Cam Beaubier back on another manufacturer. Josh Herron jumping up into Superbike, and, of course, having Tony Elias back is great, but it's all going to have to go through Jake Gagne if these guys want to try to win this championship.
Jake Gagne has had an incredible offseason. He's looking awfully fast, and of course, with his team and refinements on that motorcycle, he's going to be tough to beat.
And he's just so mellow. Like you said, he likes to get up early, come to the track, hang out with his team. Nothing really seems to shake him, and everybody else is looking a little bit frantic. Like they want to get up to the front. They want to win these races. They want to get better. And Jake's just doing his thing, and I think the big thing for Gagne is to get off to a better start in his season. We've seen him the last couple of years struggle with that, but he's still been able to come back and win a bunch of races in the championship. So I think for Gagne, he's here wanting to get on the podium and just keep moving forward.
Yeah, and you know, when you look at it, you talk about Cameron Beaubier coming back. I think a lot of fans have said to themselves, you know what? Cameron Beaubier is going to come back. He's on a BMW this year. He's going to win right away.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher than that. I think that he has shown that one-lap speed that he's got, but to be able to sustain it over time will be the thing.
So Beaubier's won 5 championships. Obviously, Gagne's the defending champ, and this is the list of these riders. You know, what's interesting is in the last 10 years, these 4 riders make up 9 championships total. The only rider that's not in the field who's won a Medallia Superbike title is Josh Hayes. But Jason, when we look at Gagne and we look at his riding style and what he's able to do on the motorcycle, in his 4th season on this bike, he just flows with it.
Yeah, but one of the things you have to remember is this guy got to watch Cam Beaubier as his teammate win races, and he learned a lot from that. And then Cam, of course, Beaubier went over to overseas and ended up over there. Gagne just picked up where Beaubier left off. And when you look at the 2020 champion, Beaubier with 5 Superbike championships was so dominant and just had a way. And he knows the bike that Gagne's on. That's what's funny.
Yeah.
He knows the team and he knows the bike that he's up against.
So what's interesting, Jay, is we have 20 races this season in Medallia Superbike, and they collect a bunch of points. And these are the 2 best years that have ever been logged since Motoamerica began. Last year, it was Gagne, 445 points, or in 2021, and the year before, with 16 wins, was Beaubier at 436.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities there between these two, and it's all under the same guidance of Richard Stamboli and that attack team. So, the thing is that I think for Cam Beaubier, it's just a matter of getting himself up to speed with this new team and the new bike.
Well, let's get down to the grid and welcome in the 3rd member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa. She is with Cameron Beaubier. Welcome back, Hannah and Cam.
Greg, Jason, the 5-time champ is back, and while the paddock and his competitors are familiar, the team and the bike are all new to him. Cam, how does it feel to line up on this grid with us after all this time?
Feels great. It feels so good being back in the Motoamerica pits. Obviously, a different team and a different bike, but yeah, it's been good. I'm gonna do my best here. Chase down this guy next to me, Jake. He's been riding great. And but yeah, our team, Tytler's BMW, have been working hard all weekend, and yeah, we'll see. I honestly don't know what to expect too much. Just gonna go do my best and leave it all on the track.
Best of luck out there, Cam. Every time I have seen him this weekend, you guys, he has had a huge smile on his face. Now, he won all of his championships with Yamaha, but flying the number 1 plate for the 2nd year in a row for that Yamaha team is none other than Jake Gagne, hoping to make it a 3-peat here this season. What's it going to take? What do you need to focus on this year to make that happen?
Just be clean and just do our job, do what this Yamaha wants to do. We had a good qualifying, but these guys are all going to be fast here in the race, so we'll see what happens in 19 laps.
Short and sweet. Jake Gagne is business as usual, guys.
And why wouldn't he be business as usual? He's had a good run at it so far. Jay, here at Michelin Race at Road Atlanta, it's a classic built in 1970, and you can tell it is a natural road course.
Absolutely, Greg, and one of the favorites of riders up that hill, turn 1, into the tricky turns 2, 3, and 4. Got to get a good start because it gets very single file up there, down through those famous Road Atlanta S's into turn 5, up over the hill. The fences are lined with spectators over there, which is great as they brake hard into turn 6. Out of 7, you're going to see these superbikes get up to speeds of up to 180 plus mile an hour down that back straightaway into that fast right kink before they brake hard down into turn 10. And then they're going to come up under the bridge, Greg, into another steep part of the track down to turn 12 to a short run to the checkered flag.
Can't wait to see how this race is going to pan itself out. We're going to find out as we are just 4 minutes away from a race start. We'll be back with that in a moment.
Superbike Race 1 2023 season. I'm excited. I'm ready to see the Jake Gagne Cameron Beaubier battle. It's just so much speculation this offseason with Cam moving over, how many titles he won, and then he leaves, and then Jake starts dominating, and it's going to be interesting to see. I do think it's going to be a little bit different personally this year for Cam Beaubier. When he went to Superbike last time, the team already won some titles and was a well-oiled machine. Now he comes to a team that's only their 2nd year in Superbike. But he's an incredible rider, but it takes a while. The Superbike class is so tough, and not having a lot of time on the bike is going to make it more difficult. But if there's somebody who can, it's definitely Cam Beaubier. He's incredibly talented, but I think it's just going to be a little bit different this year on the BMW. It's going to take a few races, I think, for them to get there. Just getting that knowledge and getting all that data, it takes a while, especially at the level Jake Gagne's at. So see what he do. Cam Peterson, see if he can make a big jump this year. Qualifying on the front row, had that crash yesterday in the first qualifier. Didn't know if we were going to see him out on the grid today, so glad to see him out there. So I got to ask, your first Moto America race, now have you become a fan?
Oh, I am an absolute huge fan now. You know, what you were talking about just now, I can definitely relate to with Cam coming back on a different bike and a different team, and it definitely takes some time. You have to learn each person on your crew as well as learning that motorcycle. So he's got a lot going on in his head, I'm sure. So it's going to be an exciting weekend for him no matter what.
And of course, I mean, there's a lot of other guys in Superbike who's ready to step up. They hear about everybody talk about Jake Gagne all the time. We got Matthew Skoltz. Heck, I mean, he's so fast, especially at this track, been in the Superbike for a couple years now, on the same team. Can he make a big step this year and be one of the guys? Having Tony Elias back, Superbike champion, Moto 2 champion, what can he do this year? He's back on the Suzuki. Richie Escalante, Josh Herron, Supersport champ, won a title before on a Yamaha. This year now he moves to Ducati Superbike. See what all these guys can do. I am looking forward to this race and see how it all shakes out.
Medallia Superbike coverage is brought to you by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the Motoamerica Championship Series. And by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
We're back at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta here in Brazelton, Georgia, as the Medallia Superbike field is on their warm-up lap. So it gives us an opportunity to take a look at the starting grid where Jake Gagne nearly broke the record, but 1:23.453.
Really quick, Cameron Beaubier, then Cam Peterson, who had it off yesterday. Good to see him back out there. Skoltz, PJ Jacobson, 5th. Josh Herron, our Super Sport Championship winner from last year, on the Superbike. Richie Escalante, Tony Elias, Corey Alexander jumped up from stock 1,000 into Superbike. Dave Anthony, Ashton Yates, and Hayden Gillum outside row 4. A little bit further back, Greg Flinders, Benjamin Smith, who just got one session today. They had some bad luck yesterday with that team, so this will be a little bit of a test for him. Giannato, Nolan Lampkin, and Jason Waters will round out our grid.
So much work to be done for some of these riders not getting track time or not having a ton of testing time, including this rider right here, Tony Elias. So many changes to the bike. The electronics specifically that he rode back in the day. Now for the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki team, Tony Elias trying to get it all sorted. So we got 19 laps scheduled in this race. Your pole sitter is your national champion, Jake Gagne. When that red light goes on, rev limiters, and away we go. And boy, Cameron Peterson looked like he got a good launch, but Jay?
Cam Beaubier got a good launch too, it looked like there, and he's going to lead him off into turn 1, maybe? Nope, Gagne lets go of the lever, and Skoltz rides around the outside of Beaubier also as Cam Peterson looks to try to get past Beaubier, but I don't think he's going to make it, Greg, as they get up to that turn 2, 3, 4 area for the first time. This is that single file area that I told you about. Good to see all our riders get through, although looked like Hayden Gillen got a horrendous start as he's at the tail end of that field there. Gagne, though, off to the front. This is what everybody does not want to see as he tried, he's so good in that first lap.
Yeah, and the fresh and lean progressive Yamaha rider, Jake Gagne, not only the first lap, his plan is to really try to turn the screws and put the pressure on the rest of the field for at least the first 3 laps and see where he sorts himself out. The Westby Racing, number 11 right there, Matthew Skoltz in second.
Curious to see what this BMW does on the back straightaway. It's been showing some pretty big speed numbers. Will he be able to just draft right past the Yamaha of Matthew Skoltz? The answer to that looks like yes as he goes through. Cam Beaubier moves himself in through to second place as they come down the hill. Under brakes into turn 10 for the first time. Look at Herron. Herron has moved himself past Cam Peterson on that Ducati as well, Greg, to get himself up into 4th. But it's that guy up front again doing what he does, breaking away early. He's probably got 4/10 to half a second or more on the field. We'll confirm that as they come across the line the first time. And, I looked at the start there. Beaubier got a good jump and just kind of got swallowed up in turn 1. First lap, Greg.
So Gagne leads the way. He's really trying to get away. And Cameron Beaubier had mentioned that he was kind of letting it unfold as Herron now up into 3rd spot.
We've seen this from Josh, though. He's also another tremendous starter. And he makes quick work of Matthew Skoltz as well. He's going to be going off to that BMW. Beaubier, a full second almost, Greg, was the lead for Gagne as they came across the line that first time by. And so, PJ Jacobson has gone down already, Greg. Looks like up probably in that turn 2, 3, 4 area.
So PJ Jacobson, his second year on that Tytlers. Turn 1 is exited turn number 1. Getting close to the top of 2 is where PJ went down. So Gagne, we're taking a look, trying to see those split times to see what's going on. Number 6 is Cameron Beaubier. If you're just joining us, is back in the U.S. on the Tytlers Cycles BMW. And there is number 45. That's Cameron Peterson on the Freshly Progressive Yamaha. Cameron Peterson had a big off yesterday. Knocked his noodle a little bit, but was able to get back on the bike this morning and go fast straight away. Across the line, we're going to get our 123.8. A 123.8. That's a new race record. The record was held by Danilo Petrucci last year at a 123.934. So Gagne does what Gagne does best and breaks records. So he breaks the record on the second lap. First one was from a dead stop. Now he goes 123.8, puts 1.2 between himself and Cameron Beaubier, who does a very respectable 124 run. Beaubier's lap was less than 0.2 of a second slower than Petrucci's best race record lap.
Amazing. And you keep in mind, Greg, that they didn't really get a solid warm-up. They got a decent warm-up this morning, but it rained really hard here last night. So by the time the Superbikes went out, it was fairly dry, but nobody wasn't good enough yet for anybody to really better their times. So we've lost Ashton Yates as well. See that he's in the pits on our screen, and yeah, we did confirm PJ Jacobson's out. So you can see at this point, but he only went 0.3 quicker that last lap than Gagne. Then Beaubier did Jake Gagne. So he's still pulling away a little bit. Another couple tenths in sector 2 there. But I think for Beaubier, this is going to be a big. I mean, obviously, all year long they're going to be learning on this bike and trying to make this better and make this rider more comfortable on it. Coming off of 2 years of Moto2 bike, prototype chassis with very, very rigid and stiff chassis. Was very difficult, I think, for Cam. And so coming back to Superbikes now, some people say it might have just been easier for him to jump on a Yamaha or whatever. I love the fact that he's on a BMW with this Tytlers team. They're going to do everything they can to give him what they need. But every lap that they turn right now in this race is going to be stuff that they're going to be learning from. They'll go back through that sheet later on and figure out we lost this many seconds on that lap or tenths of a second here or there. And they're going to try to do everything they can to keep bridging that gap and get closer and closer to Gagne.
Well, Hannah's got more on the number 6 Cam Beaubier in his return. Hannah?
Well, Jason, as you mentioned, it's a little bit challenging for him to be back on the bigger bike, but he feels that his time in Moto2 has really elevated his riding. He's grown his craft while he was over in Europe, and he said he really thinks that he can bring that experience to the Superbike, paired with all of his past experience in the field. He knows that, he's up for the challenge. And while the team is all new for him, he did get to bring one of his mechanics from Europe with him as well. So he's optimistic about working with the team and with Dave Weaver to further the development of this bike. But plain and simple, Cameron Beaubier's goal is to win. But he knows the talent in this field this season is not going to make it easy for him.
Yeah, and that's, Hannah, when you're riding over there in Moto2 with those guys, there's no way that you cannot spend 2 years over there and learn. And right now, he is bridging the gap to Gagne, Greg. In split 2, he was 0.2 quicker than Gagne was. And you can see when they come onto this front straightaway, that gap is visibly closed. 24.9 that time by for Gagne. Half a second quicker was Beaubier at a 24.4. The interesting part of this whole thing for me, Greg, will just be able to see if the tires can stay underneath Beaubier long enough to continue to run up front with Gagne. But when you're Gagne and you're used to seeing your board go from plus 0.5 to plus 1 and so on and so forth going up, he's going to see next lap by that he's actually getting closed up on a little bit.
When we talk about Cameron Beaubier and the riding style he had when he was reigning Medallia Superbike champion, it's all about the front end feel of that motorcycle and what he likes. And coming off of a Moto2 bike where he never quite got to grips with the front end of that motorcycle, he's just so happy to be on it. But yeah, the question mark right now with this bike being a newer bike, a 2023 BMW M1000RR, how's the life of the tires going to work out? The battle for third continues with Josh Herron, number 2, as he has been moved up on that Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati Panigale V4R into Medallia Superbike. And then Cameron Peterson, who's on his second year on that fresh and lean progressive Yamaha, as Matthew Skultz is just trying to hold on to these 2 as well. That's the battle for the final spot on the podium. And you can see that Skultz has just got some speed in certain parts of this racetrack to close right back up on the back of this group.
Yeah, you can see Matthews going to do everything he can, but look up the road there, Greg. You can see Beaubier is just continuing to try to close this gap. 24-4 for Gagne that last time through. 24-1. Again, another 24-1 for Beaubier. Now, we can't read too much into it just yet. Again, let's get 5, 6, 8 laps into this and see if this is sustainable.
So, Jay, here's the interesting bit. I'm talking to Jake Gagne earlier today, and we were talking about last season, talking about mistakes that he made. And he said that he has really transformed his mindset, Jake Gagne, to say to himself, I don't need to bury people. I don't need to win by 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 8 seconds. All I need to do is win by 1,000th of a second. And so his goal, Jake Gagne's goal, is to remain calm during these races. When I talked about his competition and his race, and what his race strategy was going to be, the name he mentioned the most in the entire race was Cam Beaubier. He knew what a lot of people didn't know was how close Beaubier was going to be, especially this early on.
Well, yeah, because he's seen it. He's watched it. He's sat there and he's looked at the data. He's done all the homework on it. And right now, you can see he's actually reacting a little bit to probably what he saw on his board the last time, as he has responded a little bit. But that BMW is so fast down the back straightaway, it's keeping Beaubier just that close. These three guys, as you can see, Schultz, getting bucked up out of the seat out of turn 10, 10B that is, 10A. He's getting shook around, but Gagne that time responds 24-5 to a 24-4 Beaubier, and Gagne looked like he was in there just a little bit wide, Greg, and I think Beaubier probably closed that gap up just a little bit more. That battle for third continues. Herron doing a really good job making back his Superbike, coming back to Superbike again. Doing a nice job. When you watch this Ducati go down the straight, though, the time that we saw it a little bit ago, did you see how much movement there was on that bike? Mm-hmm. As he was going down the straightaway, there was a lot of movement on that Ducati. So Beaubier again closing up onto the back of Jake Gagne, rather.
Jason, talking to Herron, he's still getting used to being on the big bike again. He's trying to be patient. He did have the opportunity to test on last year's bike, but it's a bit different from the new bike they got just a couple of weeks ago. So they're still trying to make it feel like his own. He's really looking for some more confidence on the front end and trying to understand these advanced electronics over the V2 that he was on last year. And the biggest thing for him is really just trying to understand what it is that he's feeling on the motorcycle, and then how to articulate to his team what he's feeling so that they can make the necessary changes for improvement.
Pass for the lead. Cameron Beaubier goes by after the back straightaway, showing the strength of that BMW. 186 miles an hour to Gagne's 178. And just like that, it is the number 6 of Cameron Beaubier who takes over the lead.
I think this might be good for Gagne, though. He's going to sit there and watch what Beaubier is doing on this BMW, and he can continue. Gagne, he doesn't get shook up very easily, Greg, and you can see the BMW was able to get in that draft down that back straightaway, almost put up a number of 190 mile an hour as they broke down into turn 10. Now Gagne is going to be able to go to school and just see what Beaubier's got underneath him with this new package. So I think, again, Gagne is not going to get shook up by this too much. He is expecting this from Cam Beaubier. He's expecting to have to do a lot of battling with this guy this year. And now it's a good time for him to be able to see what he's going to be up against.
And I think really, if you're Jake Gagne, you can understand, is he going to throw a shot? He doesn't really need to at this point. Because not only does Jake Gagne understand that the BMW team might not know how this bike's going to react when it gets deeper into this race, say the lap 15 mark and beyond, and how the tires are going to hold up underneath them. So he's got patience. But keep in mind, this is Cameron Beaubier's first race start on this bike.
Exactly.
And so that was also part of, he had to feel it out on really from the dump of the clutch all the way to the first lap on how this bike was going to react. The other question is, how much tire has Cameron Beaubier used, both front and rear, to reel in Jake Gagne? Because it wasn't like he was setting the world on fire. The fastest lap of the race was Gagne at a 1:23.8, but these two riders now, mid-124s, and Gagne did a 25.2. So across the line now, after Beaubier leads, they go 25.4. So the pace has dropped ever so slightly. Gagne looks, Jay, to me, like he's got just a little bit of something going on into turn number 1. He doesn't look as comfortable as I've seen him before.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. And Beaubier looks exact opposite. He looks very comfortable there. But all down through the S's, I feel like the Yamaha looks pretty nimble and a little easier to run all down through here. But then, again, Gagne got to look at that BMW down this back straightaway already that last lap. And it didn't look like it was very easy for him to kind of draft up or get near Beaubier. So he's got so many laps, Greg. We're on lap 9 of 19. So We've got a lot of laps to do. And Gagne's probably going to hang in there and just see what Beaubier has.
It's so interesting looking at the profile of the BMW M1000RR. Just look at the width, the beaminess of it. It just looks so wide, but then you have the advantage of that front aero package. And of course, that aero has to match what the street bike has. And of course, the Yamaha R1 doesn't come with that aero package, but it has got a motor underneath that does that BMW M1000RR.
I was talking yesterday to Jake Zemke, who overlooks the things that go on when Cam Beaubier is at the races, and he was saying, he said, Jay, the first time he got on the bike, he said the thing almost ripped his arms off. He was talking about how fast that BMW was. And so we know that that is kind of the key point here for this bike. I think Motoamerica is going to be hard work for some of these guys when they unleash this thing on those big straightaways up in Wisconsin. But look at how much confidence, like you say, Greg, Cam Beaubier has getting into turn one. He's able to get that BMW in there really nicely, a little bit tighter into that corner. And Gagne is a little bit wider, doesn't look as confident to kind of flick it in there, but then he closes that all back down through the S's. And you see that battle back there for third is raging back. About four and a half seconds behind the leaders right now is this battle between Herrin, Peterson, and Schultz.
Yeah, not much between them as well. It just, the two up front just keep drifting away ever so slightly. And again, this is a huge learning experience for Josh Herrin as well, who doesn't have a ton of time on this bike. I do know that, you know, when I looked at the bike from last year, which is still around, it's still in the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati tent, that this bike does look different. The swing arm is a huge difference, but it is, that Ducati is a full 2023 spec World Superbike style motorcycle. And of course, new rule in Motoamerica for 2023 in terms of how the transmissions work. Your traditional street bike, like your Yamaha R1, goes first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. But the teams were able to pick a transmission at the beginning of this season, and some of those are neutral, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So that takes out that neutral between first and second. Some of the teams are able to do it, some teams not. Like the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team doesn't really have it because it's not available in other places on that bike. By the way, the return of Tony Elias has him in 8th place, just behind Corey Alexander, who's making his Tytler Cycle Superbike debut on a full-blown Superbike. Corey Alexander running that 2022 as we continue to watch the battle up front between Cameron Beaubier and Jake Gagne. And it does seem, Jason, looking at those lap times, that Gagne's he's cool right now to hang out. You see a little bit of movement at the end of that acceleration run on the back of that BMW. And definitely, in terms of bikes being settled, the well-sorted out, fresh and lean progressive Yamaha looks perfect right now.
I think you put it best, even on this front view. You can see that the BMW is a little bit wider. It's got that top speed. We got two bikes that look like they're operating a little bit differently. The Yamaha here, it might be an advantage for Gagne to be following him right now, especially if the lap times start to drop a little bit. They're in the 25s now, so we're looking at a best of 23.8 and 24.1 from the two leaders up at the front. Gagne with that 23.8, but now they've dropped into the 25s. The battle for third, fourth, and fifth are going the exact same speed as the two leaders right now. So I think that for Gagne, he's going to be able to see Beaubier's bike moving around a lot. It's going to help him start to make that plan for a little bit later. As he sees Mike puts that out on the board, plus 3.6 to that group behind. They're 3.4 now, Greg, from Herrin to Gagne. They're still in the 24s, 24.9, 24.8 that time for Herrin and Peterson.
How much fun is Jake Gagne having right there, just spinning the rear end of that Yamaha R1 up, heading to turn number one. The other thing I talked to Gagne about, Jay, was we all know the reality is that the last two starts that they've had to the season, the fresh and lean progressive Yamaha team hasn't had the best starts. There's been all kinds of issues. And Gagne said the most important thing other than a race win is just to make sure that he has a good, solid weekend and leaves with a heap of points. But being this close, we know Gagne is never going to concede a win to Cameron Beaubier.
No, for sure. And I think the other thing that might influence Gagne's choices as the race progresses is watching that pit board. If he starts seeing that come down from plus, say, 4 to plus 3.6 now, might even be less this next lap. If he starts to see that progressively come down, he might want to make a move on Beaubier sooner rather than later, because Herrin is coming here and he's going to be ready to go, and he never gives up, and he's going to see these guys. If he starts to get a sniff that they're coming back to him at all, Herrin's going to be kind of continuing to put this charge on. Here's a good look at Herrin as he comes up over the top of the brow of that hill here. And we'll see what that gap is when they come by. Herrin's already bit into that a little bit more through sector 2. So Herron's continuing to charge our leaders. 25.2s again, 24.9 for Herron, 25 flat for Peterson. So now, Greg, it's at 3.1 seconds back between Gagne and Josh Herron.
What an incredible story we have here in Medallia Superbike race number 1. The return of Cameron Beaubier. 5 titles in a row, and then he handed the number 1 plate over to his teammate at the time, Jake Gagne, who's won 2 in a row. And coming back from 2 years in Europe in Moto 2, and Beaubier is leading the way in what has been a decent pace. He's not setting the world on fire. Jake Gagne, obviously on lap number 2, broke the Motoamerica Medallia Superbike race record, shattering Danilo Petrucci's record from 2022 at a 1:23.828.
Wow, did you see that thing moving around, Greg? Especially towards the end of the curbing there, that BMW was really getting wound up in second gear off that turn. You could see the thing really getting spinny on Cameron Beaubier. So again, though, I'm going to continue to watch as Cam Peterson has gone 26.7. These guys are literally, they're catching that lead group a lot. Both Herron and Peterson right now are starting to eat into the 2 leaders at the front. It might be under 3 seconds this time by, as Cam Peterson has a look at Herron down into that last corner. That looked like it was going to get awful close.
It did, yeah. It didn't look like Peterson wanted to give him anything, but all right, so 25 flat to 25.2 for Beaubier and Gagne. And Jay, you're right, 24.9, 24.8, 24.9 for the 3 behind him. So they're eating away at it. It's still 3.5 seconds. If you're new to Motoamerica Medallia Superbike, no onboard communications. If you're a car racing fan, the communication is through pit boards on the front straightaway that are going to give the riders signals, indications on what's happening behind them, or they can choose to look behind them, which we don't see very often at this level.
No, and you said they're 3.5. They're 3.3 behind the leader, but they're only 2.9 behind Gagne. And Gagne's board is the key board here, right, Greg? Because we saw that it was up to 3.6 or 7, maybe even 4 earlier. That's come down, and that's why you might start to see Gagne start thinking about where he wants to get by Beaubier. Now, I haven't seen too many places where it looks like that's going to be an easy task, because Beaubier is really good, obviously, and fast down this back straightaway and breaks awful late coming down in here into turn 10. He's also incredible into turn 1. So Gagne's going to have to get kind of creative of where he thinks he might want to try to get past that BMW.
I think a lot of this really is going to come down to the tires. And Hannah, there's been some changes when it comes to tires this year, hasn't there?
It is, Greg. I just checked in with Tony Romo from Dunlop, and he was telling me that both the front and the rear, they have a new tire size as well as new tire profile. So when I was talking to Jake Gagne about this, he said his goal early on in the weekend was to get some long stints on these new tires to see how they'll feel over a lot of laps.
Yeah, and really, because of the conditions that we had this morning, I think it thwarted some riders' ability to do that, as Cameron Beaubier starting to get the rear end of that motorcycle a little bit loose, especially on transitions. And this is kind of that window, Jason, that we were talking about, that maybe we don't know how this BMW is going to react on these brand new Dunlop tires. So far, so good. But Gagne was able to bring it back down into the 24s at 24.9 last time they came by the stripe.
Yeah, but the thing is, Greg, is where is that pass going to be made? I think that's going to be the hardest thing, is where is Gagne going to be able to make this pass? It doesn't look, and you can see the Yamaha right now is spinning up an awful lot as well. He's trying to get out that corner as hard as he can to try to get in the draft of this BMW, and he just isn't capable of doing it, which makes it very difficult to pass down here at the end of that back straightaway. Those bikes are going to be spinning through that kink now at the top of that hill in 6th gear. So the drive as you get up over the top of the brow of that hill and down, it's going to make it hard for Gagne to do anything as far as braking. Greg, we're 5 laps to go. I mean, this race has gone by so quickly, and Beaubier has looked like he's got a pretty consistent package. At the beginning of it, I said I didn't know how sustainable the lap times would be. We knew he could do some fast laps, but so far, it's proven to be pretty sustainable. And look how good he is into turn 1.
It's so interesting watching these two riders. When they were teammates some years ago, you could tell that the way that they make speed is completely different. You can say that Beaubier likes to make most of his speed with the front tire, Gagne with the rear. And talking with Jake about off-season testing with this Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha team, there has been a focus Gagne has really worked on, and with the addition of this new Dunlop profile on the front tire, Gagne's been really working on front-end feel, getting a little bit more speed into the corner, and try to become more of a balanced balanced rider in how he makes speed and to have those tools in his toolbox. So it really comes down to some confidence, as we know that Beaubier is so good on the brakes, coming down into 10A. But here's where Beaubier looks over his shoulder. Talked about that communication. He gets a decent drive, but Gagne didn't even bother getting in the draft this time.
Well, the thing is that Beaubier's probably seen +0 on his board, but he wants to see what that +0 actually looks like, and that's what he was checking out there.
Yeah, how many riders are +0?
How many? But not just that. He wants to make sure that when he comes out of that corner, is this guy right behind me? Can he draft me? And when he keeps getting to the end of these straightaways and not being drafted, that's a big confidence boost for the 6, knowing that maybe Gagne can't draft me. Maybe he can't get close enough to me to take a shot. We're looking now, Greg, as they come across the line, 3 laps to go. We're at that spot now where all your cards are on the table, and right now the BMW still looks very, very strong to me, and it's so good in the places that it needs to be good in. I just haven't been able to see a place where Gagne is going to be able to make this pass just yet.
What an incredible story this would be if Cameron Beaubier is able to pull off a win for his Tytler Cycles BMW team. Direct factory involvement from BMW in Germany in this program. And oh, by the way, Cameron told me they don't have all their bits and pieces here yet, Jason. There are more parts to come to improve this bike as this group continues to close ever so slightly on the front runners. Beaubier on the number 6, Jake Gagne on the number 1. BMW versus Yamaha. Let's take a look at the drive coming out of 7 here for Gagne.
That is the first time I've seen Beaubier close the door on an entry into a corner, which was turn 6. He moved over to the right a little bit, and you saw Gagne had nowhere to go but to the left. So that's craftsmanship, that's racecraft that Beaubier is now trying to show. As you can see here, Gagne actually looks closer this time, Greg, than he has the whole race.
I think it was because the tire was spinning for Beaubier, and that could be also a little bit of intrusion with traction control, slowing that BMW down with some wheel spin.
But does Beaubier look susceptible to being passed into the brakes in turn 10 right now? Not at all.
No,
he looks really, really strong there.
And not in 12 either. You know, and that's also, if you're out practicing by yourself all the time, like maybe Jake Gagne was, and you're not getting around somebody, you've got to have a weapon to race. And we know, as Josh Herron continues, he's a 25-1. He chips away at it again. So now Herron has only got a 2-second gap, but time is running out. 2 laps to go. So if Herron wants to have a chance to win in this race, and I'm not saying it's not possible, especially if these two start racing each other up and passing each other, don't leave number 2 out of this one yet. Josh Herron could win this race.
No, but what a big confidence boost. He might not win it, but for all 3 of these guys, seeing that these 2 guys aren't getting away any more than they have, that's going to put the premise tomorrow that they've got to do better at the start. They've got to run with these guys those first 3 or 4 laps and not lose those 3 or 4 seconds, because they have been coming back at these guys the whole time. And you can see Gagne has a little sniff up the inside of 7, but he's not able to make that even close to pass there.
I think that for Jake Gagne to make this work, he's going to have to make a pass either in 1 or the top of the hill and really try to pull a gap through the S's, where I think the Yamaha seems a little bit more nimble, because this BMW is just yarding him right now.
Yeah, well, he's really fast down the back straightaway, and he's incredible into braking. I mean, right now, Beaubier is doing the 2 things that he needs to do the best, and it's making it very difficult for the Yamaha, the number 1 bike, to do anything. We're coming to the white flag lap, Greg. This race has gone by so quickly, and I just don't see any chinks in the armor of the number 6.
This is it, the final lap of Medallia Superbike race number 1. Cameron Beaubier has led for such a long time. Josh Herron in his return to Superbike, only 1.6 seconds behind. But now it's on Jake Gagne. What can he do to try to pass Cameron Beaubier? Is this going to be a storybook start to the 2023 season for Beaubier, the number 6, who comes back from a lackluster 2 years in Europe and the Moto2 bike, trying to regain his confidence with a brand new team, different manufacturer than we saw him leave with? What's going to happen between these 2 riders? The BMW has got such a strong motor underneath them. At this point, it looks like Gagne, if he's got a chance, he's got to do something with him, Jay, in turn number 7.
No, he's not close enough. I thought he might try to duck up the inside of him. It's not close enough, Greg. So now it's an all-important run down this back straightaway, and Gagne is going to have to do everything he can to get as small as he can. But, Greg, look at this BMW. It's just getting away from the Yamaha as they creep over the brow of this hill. Cam will probably close the door a little bit. As he does, he's kind of mid-track. and made it really hard for Gagne to do anything as we see a bike down to the gravel.
Turn 10A, 10B, Cameron Beaubier coming up over the hill. There is lap traffic there, but hopefully he'll miss it. Here comes Cameron Beaubier down the hill, hard on the brakes. The Tytler Cycle BMW rider in his first run back to the checkered flag. As the checkered flag waits, it is Cameron Beaubier who takes victory over Jake Gagne by 0.3 of a second. And he's done it. What a storybook return to the United States for the Californian.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty unbelievable. I'm a little bit speechless right now, and I'm super impressed with not only both our first two, but how about Heron in his return? He ends up only 1.9 seconds off the win, so that bodes well for that team as well. All 5 of these riders, we had top 5 guys 3.8 seconds apart from each other.
Incredible. Medallia Superbike Racing doesn't disappoint, and there is the margin of victory. That's what 0.34 seconds looks like, as Cameron Beaubier will walk away in day number 1 as the championship leader as he banks 25 points. Here's the race pace for Cameron Beaubier. So a 24-1. It's going to be interesting to hear from Jake Gagne as well. But Jay, well, I mean, I don't even know what to say. If you're a Beaubier fan, you're going, told you so.
Well, look, the thing is that we both talked about this race before it started, and we both agreed that if Beaubier could get out with Gagne on the first lap, he might be able to pass him down the back straightaway. The fact that it took him 6 laps to do that and actually close that gap was incredible. So, I mean, huge props to this whole Tytler's team for getting Cam Beaubier over here into America and giving him a shot and a chance to come and win on another brand motorcycle.
I think this guy is very happy. It's been a couple years since he won, and he deserves that one. Your top 3, Beaubier, Gagne, and Josh Heron. What an off-season we have had to bring these stars back to Medallia Superbike Racing. And we are going to step away right now, but when we get back, Hannah's going to talk to Beaubier in Winner's Circle and find out how he did it.
What a weekend so far if your last name's Beaubier. Cameron coming back, getting his first win in 2 years after returning from Moto 2. Younger brother getting a win as well.
Oh, yeah.
It has been one heck of a weekend so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, great day for the Beaubiers. Both kids getting a win, and you know what a ride by Cameron. We've been looking for Jake Gagne to get the battle, and also for that team. You know, all those guys have put in so much work to get to this point. Not only last year, but going into this year. So Cam's won before, but for the team, man, it's just going to elevate them and learn so much. It was it was kind of a weird race. I've never really seen Jake Gagne be kind of slowed down as much as he did this race. I don't know if the tires went off or not. His best lap was 23.8, and he was doing mid-25s at one part of the race, and it just seemed a little weird. We haven't seen Jake kind of fall off like that.
He faded.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
His pace faded, yeah.
His pace changed that much. I've never seen it change that much in a race. And Cam did awesome. I mean, Cam has got a lot of experience, and I told you before the race, it was going to be different for him this year. But if anybody can do it, Cam Beaubier can. I mean, he's just incredible talent.
Yeah, I mean, what a return, an absolutely superb ride. And as Greg and Jason were talking about, Gagne did what Jake does, goes out to that big lead, but then Beaubier able to run him back down. But maybe one of the stories here is in the latter, third of that race, Heron Peterson in particular, were absolutely flying relative to the two guys up front. And they closed it down to have that top 4 covered by, 2.1 seconds? Yeah. That's remarkable.
Josh Heron was about 3.5, 4 seconds behind with 7-8 laps to go and closed it into 1.6. If they can figure out those first couple laps, we always talk about Jake Gagne going out and practice and getting up really, really good, getting up to speed, and he does that. Then he does it in the race. He did it today, got away. Wasn't as those guys were a little quicker, but he already had such a big gap it didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean that that obviously works. The only question is why did he fade a little bit? Did he push those tires a little bit too hard this time? Again, remember it's a new construction and new profile from Dunlop, and he said it earlier in one of the interviews. We're still learning on this tire. We like it. The performance is great. We're still learning about longevity and all of those key issues, which of course make up a big thing. Matt Scholz, another top 5 finish. He was quick for parts of that race. Escalante right there in 6th. Tony Elias, what do you think his thoughts are finishing 7th here? Well, actually, we'll talk more about that in just a little bit, because it is about time for us to get it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore as we wrap things up and hear from our podium finishers here in Atlanta.
Well, the fans were treated to an unbelievable race in the Medallia Superbike race number 1, the kickoff race to the season. And yeah, this is not, you're not looking at 2020. This 2023. Cameron Beaubier is back, and he was able to beat Jake Gagne by 34 hundredths of a second. Josh Herron right there, 1.9. They did a great job to close that gap with Cam Peterson, Matthew Schultz. Richie Escalante on that Vision Wheel M4 Star Suzuki in 6th. Tony Elias back in action. Corey Alexander in his debut on the Tytler's BMW Superbike in 8th. And David Anthony, who is on a Yamaha R1 now, in 9th place. But let's get right down to victory lane, and I'm sure that Cameron Beaubier wants to talk our ears off after a great victory. He's with Hannah right now.
And Greg, it is the 55th Superbike victory of Cameron Beaubier's career, but his first ever victory on a BMW and the first victory for Tytler Cycle Racing. Cam, yesterday when I talked with you, you said you're here to win, and you followed through today. How were you able to run Jake down and ultimately pass him for this win?
Man, yeah, first off, it's just it's such a special day, you know. Struggled pretty bad the last couple years, and off in Europe, and yeah, just this whole weekend has been super special. Just seeing a lot of people I haven't seen in a long time. Watching my little brother get his first national win this morning. It was just so special for our family and stuff like that. And it feels just so good to firstly to pay the Tytler's team with a win, because they've been working so hard this offseason. We did not know what to expect coming into this year and this weekend. You know. We tested a little bit with the TAC Yamaha boys back in California, and we're getting smoked pretty good. So I was honestly pretty surprised there in that race. I was able to start closing the gap to Jake, and then there towards the end, I knew he had pace on me, but I knew I had motor on him. So hats off to all the guys, all the fans for coming out, and you'll see how it goes tomorrow.
Congrats to Cam, and it is certainly a good day to be a Beaubier. Moving on over to our second place finisher today, our defending champion, Jake Gagne. Jake, as those laps wound down, where were you looking for an opportunity to try and make a move on Cam?
Yeah, I was looking, I got off to a great start. You know, first couple laps were hot, and Cam rode his butt off to chase me down for sure. And after a few laps, man, I haven't had arm pump like that in years around this track. It was tough, and I just couldn't squeeze the brake any harder, you know. And Cam was fast in a lot of places. There was other places I was a little faster, but man, we were just kind of back and forth. And again, hats off to Cam, man, coming back like that and that team. Those guys worked hard, and I feel like I left a little on the table. This Yamaha had more in it today, but we got another crack at it tomorrow. So again, thanks to the team. Harai Helmets, Alpine Stars, TAC Performance, Fresh and Lean, Progressive, all the team, and yeah, another one tomorrow.
Congratulations to Jake Gagne, our second place finisher. Third place today goes to Josh Herron on the Ducati. Josh, it was your first time out on this Ducati Superbike and a podium for you. What was it that you think that gave you the advantage over your competitors in this battle for third?
I think I just had a really good motorcycle under me. We just got this motorcycle a week and a half ago, so it's been a lot of work trying to get this thing going. This is our third day on it, so hats off to the boys for all the hard work. I just want to give a huge shout out to Paolo Ciabatti, everybody at Ducati Corsa for providing such a good machine. I said it last year, I'm really happy to be on these red bikes, and really proud of what me and the entire Warhorse HSBK racing team have been able to do. Hats off to Cameron. I know it's a great feeling getting a win, first race back. It was cool to watch those guys going at it, but I can smell it, man. I went into this race thinking if I can just get on the podium, I'll be lucky, and I expected them to have a gap in the front quite a bit. To be able to reel them in the last half of the race, I'm super excited. So thank you to everybody. Congrats to these guys on first and second, and we'll be here tomorrow to try again.
Josh Herron rounding out your podium, the first of the season for our Medallia Superbikes.
A lot of work in the offseason for Herron to get fit to race a Superbike again. And as we look at this podium, which looks like a Super Sport race from 12 years ago, we'll be back with more coverage from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was revealed because you were mentioning it to me when Greg and Jason were calling the race about you just thought something wasn't quite right there, just watching what was happening with the dynamic for Jake Gagne. He wasn't flowing into the corners very well, and he explained it there, didn't he?
Yeah, and you know, I told you before the weekend started when we was watching some stuff on Friday how physical this track is, and I told you these S's can cause arm pump. A lot of riders struggle with arm pump here at Atlanta, that they don't have issues at other tracks, and I just thought there was something going on just because I haven't seen him. You know, we're usually talking about how consistent he is through the whole race, and then his lap times dropped off a whole second. So when you get arm pump, you can't just slow down for a lap or two and it go away. It's there for the duration of the race, and you got to, you know, deal with it. And the thing is, sometimes you think you're squeezing the front brake and you're not, and you just have no feeling in your finger. And for him, he did the smart thing. He kind of slowed down, and instead of crashing out, got second. So that was a great job by him, but awesome by Cam Beaubier and that team. That's the story today. Cam coming back. Awesome to see. I know everybody knows what it's like to have a couple years and struggle when you're not having any fun, and then come back and start winning again. There's not a better feeling. And his brother winning today, so you know, great day for the family. You won't find a better family than the Beaubiers. So that was awesome by Cameron, and great to see. And it was fun to see a Superbike battle from start to finish. It was, the battle for the lead was amazing. That battle for third was fantastic, and Dartner became a 5-bike scrum, for the win. For people who don't know, what is the difference between a Moto2 bike and a super bike? And Cameron just seems so suited, Beaubier, to these super bikes. It's just how you ride it's a lot different. It's kind of like a super sport to super bike. Even though the Moto2 bikes are quick, they just don't have the power like the Superbike does. The Superbike's more about getting it put up on the edge of the tire and getting the drive out. Right. So the riding style is a little bit different, and you know what? This is kind of a little bit scary for the competition. Coming in the first race, we were talking about yesterday, he'll get stronger and be a threat maybe mid-season. He's already winning races, so he's got to be having a lot of confidence right now. Well, and I mean the fact that they're saying they've got more bits coming, that this bike isn't totally there yet, and that arm pump thing. There were a couple of times into 6 and particularly into 7 where you and I, were thinking, boy, he's there. Why isn't Jake just diving inside, standing him up? Well, now we know because he didn't have any feel for that brake. And the big thing would be braking into turn 10. Oh, huge, when you're coming from over 180 mile an hour, trying to brake and you have no feeling in your hand, but. It's all about Cam Beaubier, man. It was so cool to see him back and smiling in the paddock, and such a good rider. I'm not surprised that he won. I'm just a little surprised it happened in race 1. Yeah, not surprised he won, but impressed he won in race 1 for sure. That was what a great battle that was. So absolutely fantastic. And we're going to head back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
Medallia Superbike coverage is brought to you by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the Motoamerica Championship Series. And by Geico Motorcycle. Visit geico.com to see how easy covering your ride can be.
All right, we're back at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Post-race coverage for Medallia Superbike race number 1. Let's get right down to Hannah.
Finishing 4th today is Cameron Peterson after a big off earlier in the weekend. The team scrambled to put the bike back together in time for you, but just checking in, how is that motorcycle feeling, and how are you physically feeling?
Yeah, motorcycle's great. I mean, got the best team in the paddock, so they did their job, and yeah, just a little bit frustrated, to be honest, with the race. Was a little bit tentative those few laps after yesterday and fell back, but yeah, honestly, really felt like I had the pace at the end to at least go with these guys, but the BMW and Ducati's got some legs on the straight, so it made it a little tough to make some moves, but yeah, congrats to the guys on the podium. They rode great, and welcome back, Cam, but we coming for you, brother.
Thanks, Cam. We'll see you tomorrow. Guys?
Yeah, and there's been some work done in the off-season to find traction, Jay, and it's the one thing about Medallia Superbike is you can't say anything about the actual performance of the motor itself because it's always how you manage it.
It could be electronics that are slowing it down a little bit, or just a lack of grip.
Yeah, it could be a number of things. I mean, that race was pretty heated today too, so there's a lot of different things that are going on through these riders' brains as they're going around. And Cam Peterson's going to Barber next. He'll be good there too as well.
Our coverage continues when we come back to Braselton, Georgia in a moment.
Well, you see the Mission Food banners going up, and that says it's next up is Mission King of the Baggers, and that's going to be just fantastic as well. So we're looking forward to that. A little period to put on here that I want to mention to you. On Thursday afternoon when I was here, and I ended up having a chat with both Jake and Michael Gilbert, and we got to talking about the differences between riding a super bike and a super sport bike. And, Jake said in ways the super bike's a little bit easier in a sense because when you start sliding, a lot of times on the super sport bike, you're already wide open, and you can't use the power and the throttle to kind of drive through it, and that's when it'll snap and go. And it just sort of seems like maybe, obviously Cameron Beaubier is just loving the ability to use the power to, make saves and do things here on these big super bikes.
Also, he has super bike experience before, so he knows kind of how to expect that and what to do. And was on super bike for a long time and won a lot of titles. So it's awesome to see that those 5 Superbike guys, I mean, anyone, if they would have all been together toward the last half of the race, any 5 of them could have won. And I think we're going to see that this year. All those guys have stepped up and